Round of the championship here around this 5.8 kilometre circuit, just about 20-25 minutes from Milan towards the north. Obviously this hugely famous Grand Prix circuit, which has hosted Formula 1 Grand Prix every year bar one since 1950, and it's hugely quick through the speed trap. The quickest Formula 3 drivers yesterday were doing 266 kilometres an hour. The top speed of the car is 280 kilometres an hour, or thereabouts, which is around about 175 miles an hour. A 2-litre engines, fuel injected, direct injection, which was brought in a couple of years ago. The cars and the engines were upgraded at the start of last season to 240 brake horsepower, and the braking ability of the car and the acceleration of the car is equally impressive. They all run on slick hand-coupe tyres. You are limited to 3 sets of slicks in a weekend, which you have to use for the 2 qualifying sessions and for the 3 races. And normally you would find they'll use 2 sets of slicks for the qualifying sessions, try and save 4 tyres then for the races, which you either then run a couple of new tyres in one race and a couple in another, or depending on what the weather might do, you might go for all 4 new slicks. If you've got a better grid as well, you might go for that in one of the races. So chances are there might be 1 or 2 out there with brand new slicks, but others with slightly worn tyres. And the tyres were getting a little bit slippy and slidey towards the end of race 1. We didn't really see that in race 2 because of all the safety cars we had, but in race 1 certainly cars were slipping and sliding around quite a bit at the exit to the chicanes for the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 laps of the race. So it's a very quick lap here. Off the start line they'll go into Prima Variante, where they really squeeze through there. It's 6th gear down to 1st gear, so the slowest part of the course through that tight chicane, through flat out through the Curva Grande, which is easily done in these cars. Then into the 2nd chicane, which is a little bit quicker than the first, taken in 2nd gear. Then you brake about 75 metres from the corner at top speed, down to 2nd gear, flick it through the chicane, through Prima and Seconda Lesmo. Double right-hander at the top of the circuit in 4th gear, down the straight into the Ascari chicane, which is the 3rd of the chicanes, the quickest of the chicanes as well. It's a downhill run from Lesmo down into a valley, and then it rises up. It's not huge, but it is a climb up towards Ascari. So you can brake late there, use the topography of the circuit through 4th gear, and it's important to get the speed through the corner. It's not just about braking as late as you can, locking up, sorting it out thereafter. It's about maintaining the speed through the middle of the corner and then being able to get a good acceleration out of it, get close to somebody ahead of you if you're in that position, and pick up a toe down the straights, these long straights. So they come out of the Ascari chicane and up towards the Parabolica, this big sweeping, arcing right-hander at the end of the lap, which they're coming up towards now. So at the top of the shot there, you can see the exit to the Ascari chicane. Into Parabolica, they brake very, very late, only about 40 or 50 metres before the corner. You're actually turning into the Parabolica as you brake, so you need good balance on the car. It means you can't just hammer the brakes on, you have to be a little bit more progressive so as not to upset the balance of the car, but then maintain the speed through the corner. There's lots of runoff on the exit these days, as you can see, so perhaps not quite as challenging as it once was, and 1 or 2 were running wide. On one of the safety car restarts, that man, our pole sitter Felix Rosenquist, the 3rd safety car restart, made a mistake and ran very wide going through Parabolica and crossed the white lines, crossed the track limits of the circuit. And you remember, if you watched the race, that he was under investigation for that. It was looked at by the stewards. He was reprimanded, i.e. given a tap on the knuckles, but he wasn't given any penalty. So Rosenquist's not getting any penalty for that mistake. It was a genuine mistake, and it certainly wasn't a case of somebody crossing the white line to try and gain an advantage. As Alex Albon, who's subsequently had a bit of a tough weekend here at Monza, said to me, it's quite cleverly laid out, the track limits. If you go beyond the track limits at some circuits, it's an advantage. You can get on the throttle earlier, you can cut the corners. Here, it's actually a disadvantage if you go beyond the track limits at most corners except Parabolica, because of these curves that are adverse camber and can bottom the cars out. So we're almost ready to go for the 3rd race of the weekend. Round 12 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship gets underway with Felix Rosenquist from pole position. Charles Leclerc alongside Jake Dennis has made another good start by the looks of things. as they charge down towards the first chicane, and Leclerc is going to have a go around the outside for the lead of the race here. He's had a terrible weekend so far by his very high standards. Can he get through? Oh, goodness me, there's another car up in the air there. It's one of the Giovinazzi cars from the middle of the pack, which has flown up in the air. Contact with the back of another car, so all the warnings, all the reprimands, and the late night with the stewards last night didn't quite sink in. And it's really a case of it's so slow through that chicane. If you're caught up in the middle, you cannot brake where you normally expect to brake, because it's just a concertina effect. They all slow each other up. Giovinazzi trying to squeeze through, and running straight on at the next chicane is Santino Ferrucci, making a mistake there. He'll be able to get back on the circuit. So it's Rosenqvist in the lead, Leclerc, and then Dennis up into third place ahead of Giovinazzi, with Gustavo Meneses next up. I have a feeling it might have been, looking at where the car was, Rd4 was about in the middle of the pack, where the Giovinazzi car, the colours that we saw going off at the chicane, rose up into the air. So I have a feeling it might be the number 26 car that's had the moment, but we'll confirm that when we get another look at it. So here is our race leader coming into the Ascara chicane, Rosenqvist, Leclerc, the top runners in the championship, all still inside the top four, but in a slightly different order. And that's one of the Mikkel Motorsport cars getting it all wrong going into the next chicane. I think it was Mikkel Jensen that time. And he ran very wide, he locked up, he scrambled it back onto the circuit, but he might lose a place or two as a result of that. So a couple of errors from the two Muka drivers. He went very well to finish third and fourth yesterday. They've got away with it, but they've allowed the top four to get away from them as a result of matters. They're the two Westec cars going well. Now here's a replay, and safety car is being deployed, and indeed it was Rd4 who ran into the back of one of the Westec cars and rode over the wheels and got flicked up into the air. Never really got to the point where you worried it might flip over, but still a nasty incident. The front wing is off, the car is out of the race, the driver is out of the race, and although it's off the circuit, because the marshals and the recovery crew are very close to the braking point there, you have to bring the safety car out, because if somebody else runs off there while they're trying to do their job, it's going to be hugely dangerous. So absolutely the right decision to bring out the safety car. It's getting to the point now where I think we might have had as many safety cars as we had at Po, which is a surprise given that we're at a street circuit where somebody crashes into a wall, which is easy to do, and there's no runoff. Cars get stranded on the circuit. You kind of expect a lot of safety cars at a venue like that. Perhaps not quite so many at a venue like this. It's been very lively. You think maybe the first race of the weekend they're taking it a little bit easier, knowing that there's two more races to come, but it wasn't the case. Race 1 was dramatic enough, race 2 was even more so, and race 3 we've already had this one incident. So to run through the order, well, we've got the safety car out. Felix Rosenqvist leads by 0.7 of a second, Charles Leclerc is second, Jake Dennis third, Antonio Giovinazzi dropping behind him to fourth. Giovinazzi made some very good starts to races this season, but Jake Dennis has had a couple of good starts as well. Although yesterday he said he didn't actually get off the line very well in race 2, but he saw a gap going into the first chicane, took the chance, pulled off some brave moves yesterday. That was one of them, and he got through ahead of Charles Leclerc, but wasn't without contact, and Leclerc, with a broken front suspension, was out of the race almost before it had started. Gustavo Meneses is in 5th place in this race, and then we have Brandon Mazzano in 6th position. Mikkel Jensen, the Danish driver, dropping to 7th after his error. Lance Stroll is 8th from the pit lane start, although to confirm that, because we didn't see him in the pit lane, and the last piece of paper I had about 25 minutes before I came up to the commentary box said that that decision was under appeal, so it may have been appealed and he may not have started from the pit lane. He was due to start the race 11th on the grid. I think that's probably been the case. So 11th to 8th for Stroll. Down to 9th place, Santino Ferrucci, who we saw locking up into the second chicane, and 10th is Marcus Pommer. George Russell is 11th, Pietro Fittipaldi 12th, Max Gunther 13th, Fabian Schiller 14th, Ralph Hyman is 15th, Tatiana Calderon is 16th, Callum Eilert 17th, Martin Janos, the GP3 racer, in 18th, Hongwei Cao and Alessio Larandi rounding out the top 20. Just lost the one car, that being Rd4, which is the car being recovered. So Tatiana Calderon having a decent start to the race, up to 16th place. Had a quick chat with her this morning, as I mentioned a couple of times. She had a very strong end to the 2014 season, where more often than not she was picking up points. In fact, once she got into the points, every round thereafter, at least in one of the races, she was able to score points. She switched teams to Carlin. Carlin hugely experienced, very successful team, but things haven't just quite gelled for whatever reason so far this season, and she hasn't had a sniff of the points really. I had a quick chat with her this morning, but she's feeling more confident with the car. It's a new car, it's a new team. It's taken a little while to settle in, and the Colombian a little bit more positive than she was at the start of the season. Perhaps would have been higher up the grid had she been able to get a better toe in qualifying, although most of them say the same thing, that if you didn't get a toe in qualifying, which can be up to 6 or 7 tenths of a second a lap, when you consider 6 or 7 tenths of a second is probably the difference between being on the front row of the grid and being in the middle of the pack, then it is huge, but it's a little bit of strategy, a little bit of luck involved in it all as well. Tatiana felt that maybe she could have been a bit higher at the grid, so things may be turning around for the Colombian. A chance of some points here with the field bunched up. She's in 16th place. She'll be coming up to the circuits in the second half of the season where she was able to score points last year. So Rosenqvist, who's had plenty of practice, he's well versed with these safety car restarts. He said in the press conference at the end of the race yesterday, he was sort of glad the red flags came out because he was running out of tricks and ways to restart, keeping everybody behind him. Although he wished he hadn't said that, because then a few hours later, when they counted it back a lap and it was awarded half points, it sort of scuppered him somewhat. So Prema Power Team with a mixed weekend. Great results with Rosenqvist and Dennis. 2 wins. Dennis on the podium twice. 19th win of the season, of the career yesterday for Felix Rosenqvist. His 4th of the season. He's now won double the races of anybody else, but he hasn't quite had the consistency, not always due to his own fault. Jake Dennis picked up his 9th career podium yesterday, adding to the 2 wins that he got at Poe. 2 podiums at Silverstone as well. So his 9 podiums, 6 of them have come in the 2015 season, his 2nd in the championship. It's the first time all year that Antonio Giovinazzi has not scored any points. Incident involving cars 26 and 11 at turn 1 under investigation. 26 is Ryan Tvetter, 11 is the car that he hit, the Westech car of Fabian Schiller. Right from the get-go yesterday, off the start line we had incidents when Marcus Pommer's car stalled on the line, and the international driver, the Polish driver Artur Janotz, had nowhere to go but into the back of him off the start line. Had an interesting chat with Artur earlier in the weekend, comparing driving a Formula 3 car with racing in GP3, and his debut GP3 at Barcelona a couple of weeks ago. Just missed out the points in his 2nd race, in 12th place. But he said in GP3 it's more about managing the tyres. You're on the radio constantly to the team. They're telling you how much to back off. Sometimes he was saying they're telling me to back off a second a lap to look after the tyres, because they really do go off. And it's alien to a racing driver to slow down, but it's a very different way of driving. But it can be huge amounts of time that you lose with the tyres in GP3, so you really have to nurse them. Here he says you get in the car and you basically can just race. It's more pure racing. You don't have to manage the tyres, you can just race from start to finish. So a very different approach. He's here to get used to the circuit, because he'll be racing here in GP3, supporting the Formula 1 Grand Prix in September. So it's going to be another lap behind the safety car by the looks of things. With Felix Rosenqvist. Okay, just got news through that the safety car should be coming in at the end of this lap. It's not confirmed on the screen yet, but you'd expect it to be the case. Looks like they've pretty much cleared the incident now at the first chicane. So Rosenqvist with a bittersweet day yesterday, these 2 wins, but that annoyance at the half points rule. That was good news, of course, for Leclerc and for Giovinazzi, who managed to score no points in that race. After this great run coming into this weekend, Giovinazzi had not been off the podium. He got a 4th place from a lowly grid, well, lowly by his standards, 8th in race 1. And then that non-points finish yesterday, Charles Leclerc has had 1 5th place finish. And that's all he's got to show so far for the weekend. So Rosenqvist and Dennis have been able to catch up the top 2 in the points. It's also been a bad weekend for Max Gunther, who was 5th in the championship before this weekend. And it's been one of the best qualifiers in the championship up until this point. And he has had 2 retirements this weekend. It means that George Russell, who keeps picking up points, keeps finishing in the top 10, did move up to 5th place in the championship by a single point. So the British driver up into 5th in his first season with the championship. Charles Leclerc is the leading rookie this year. He's got 210 points in the rookie championship. George Russell has moved up to 2nd in the rookie standings, and Max Gunther third. Charles on 210, George on 128, and Max still stuck on 112 points. In terms of the team's championship, Premier Power Team looking for a hat-trick of championship successes. A lead with 279.5 points, 218 for Giovinazzi. I am with Carlin, who was second. Third in the standings, Van Amersfoort. Van Amersfoort Racing scored no points with their drivers yesterday. That was the first time since Imola last year, since race 1 at Imola in September last year, that Van Amersfoort had a race without scoring a single point. That was when their drivers all failed to finish, all retired. So Jules Kvyat, Gustavo Meneses and Max Verstappen all failing to score at Imola. So it's the first time they didn't pick up any points. It's been a tough weekend after a very good all-round weekend at Co. But no doubt they will be back. And they'll drop points to the top 2 in the team's championship. Car 11, black and orange flag. Now, the black and orange flag is for safety reasons, so it's a disqualification as such, but not for driving standards. And obviously something at the back of that car which was hit has come awry, or some fluid is leaking, and he's been ordered to go to the pits as Felix Rosenqvist goes right to the edge of the white line on the restart, building up speed coming out of Parabolica, but doesn't cross it this time, being careful not to do so after his reprimand last night. And the race gets back underway. Perfect restart for him. And keep an eye on Brandon Mazzano in 6th place. He looked pretty close to the tail of Gustavo Meneses to me. There we can see Max Gunther, number 28, trying to get himself up towards the top 10. Mazzano is indeed very close to the Giovinazzi I Am car, but only draws alongside the rear wheels, isn't able to get through. And so the top 6 remain as they are. More lockups a bit further down the order. Nico Pola there, and I think the number 18 car, the green and blue machine, having a little moment, but he got away with it. Coming out through Curva Grande then, this is where you start to pick up a toe, and there'll be lots of overtaking into this second chicane. Feigning out of the slipstream there to look for second place was Jake Dennis, and Santino Ferrucci a little bit further back is making a move on Lance Stroll. So Lance Stroll losing a place there, Ferrucci getting one back after his earlier mistake. There you can see with your own eyes the reason they gave the black and orange flag to the number 11 Team Westtech car, Schiller, with a detached rear wing. It's still on, but it's loose and dangerous, so they'll be able to go back out again as long as they fix it and the officials are okay. But of course it's basically race over for him with only the top 10 scoring points, so just really a test session this now for him. So rising up into the braking zone for the Ascari chicane, named after Roberto Ascari, the first ever double Formula 1 world champion, the last Italian Formula 1 world champion back in the early 1950s. Antonio Giovinazzi, having never been off the podium all season, hasn't been on it so far this weekend. He's not on it at the moment because he's in 4th place. Brendan Mazzano in the background, pulling out of the slipstream on Gustavo Meneses. That's a simple, straightforward move, and the French driver gets through. Of course, knows this circuit, having raced in the Italian Formula 4 Championship last year, in which he was the trophy class winner. Lance Stroll, another one that raced in that championship, was the overall champion. So a bit of circuit knowledge here for the French driver. But Gustavo Meneses now, of course, gets the toe himself, and they go wheel to wheel down the start-finish line here, trying to squeeze a gap, trying to pry it open, is the American driver. He will do so. Mazzano gives him room. He'll have to defend himself, his own position, then from Mikkel Jensen, the Danish driver in the orange Muka Motorsport car, who tried to get in on the act. He couldn't do so. There's number 10, George Russell. The dark blue car is into the points now, into 10th place. And it's got ahead of Marcus Pommer. So George Russell looking for what would be, yes, his 6th straight points finish here. So a good start to his campaign. And there is Charles Leclerc, wheel to wheel with Jake Dennis, who goes around the outside of him. What a move. Jake Dennis gets 2nd place going into the chicane. At the end of race 1, he said he pulled off what, even by his own standards, were some pretty intense moves. And that was another of them. That was a great move around the outside. Charles Leclerc gave him the room. Bearing in mind those two came together yesterday. Good driving on both parts there. But a change for 2nd place. Dennis through and into 2nd position, looking for his 3rd podium finish of the weekend. Maybe now about to search out his 3rd win in his career. But his teammate and close friend Felix Rosenqvist is the target ahead, and there's not been too much between them so far this season. Rosenqvist is about a 2nd clear. There's another lock-up further back. Santino Ferrucci again, this time trying to get past his teammate. 7th place, that is 4, and it's against Mikkel Jensen. Ferrucci is in the number 5 car. Then he had a couple of seasons of car racing in the Skip Barber Series. He's not a rookie anymore, but he's not yet had a full season in the championship, having joined at Spa last year. There's a bit more slipstreaming going on just behind. One of the Prema Power Team cars trying to squeeze through. I think that is Lance Stroll pushing out wide. One of the Muka Motorsport cars there. This battle and then the tail end of the top 10. George Russell likes all of that because it slows them up and it allows him to get in on the act. So it's Mikkel Jensen and Lance Stroll that were pushing each other out wide. George Russell has nicked a place or two as a result of that in the dark blue Carlin Motorsport car. And just ahead, another lockup. That's Gustavo Menezes at the inside there of Brandon Mazzano, trying to squeeze position, bumping all over the curbs because he's running out of space. Then is George Russell, and a broken suspension, broken left side for number 27, Mikkel Jensen, who comes together with all sorts going on at that chicane. Once again, it's such a tight squeeze through there. It's really single file, but these drivers are trying to go through it to abreast, and it's just not working. Somebody always comes off worst. Again, this fight continuing between Brandon Mazzano and Gustavo Menezes, and we are having some absolutely brilliant racing here at Monza. We haven't had the number of, fingers crossed, we haven't had the number of incidents that we had in races 1 and 2, but I think we've had better racing so far with more good overtaking than we had in the first 2 encounters yesterday morning and yesterday afternoon. So the order is all changed, apart from at the front. Felix Rosenqvist is leading. He's by 1.4 seconds clear now of Jake Dennis, newly into second place. Charles Leclerc is third, as we see Sam McLeod in the pits with, I think, damage to the car. So Sam McLeod into the pits and probably out of the points now. Charles Leclerc demoted to third. Antonio Giovinazzi is fourth. His teammate Gustavo Menezes is fifth, fighting very hard but fairly with Brandon Mazzano, the Prema Power Team driver, in sixth place. And the safety car is coming out again. Oh dear. And that'll be for the incident at the chicane, won't it? Seventh place, Santino Ferrucci has had a feisty race so far. It's definitely his best performance of the year so far. And equally, it's the best performance for Muka Motorsport this season. They really have hit form again. Mikkel Jensen was saying that had a big problem with his car. I wouldn't say what it was, but the rumour is that there were braking problems with the Muka Motorsport car, which are now resolved and is much quicker. So riding over the back of Lance Stroll, who's really been in the wars this weekend, that's an understatement, was Mikkel Jensen. This was the lock-up from Ferrucci earlier on as he tried to get past Mikkel Jensen. So you see those orders the other way around, if you like. That move came earlier, and then Jensen's demise came at the start of the next lap. Mikkel Jensen and Santino Ferrucci, who were tied together in qualifying, on this big battle with Lance Stroll. George Russell getting in on the action as well, running out of road, going over the curb, so that's probably the best option rather than hitting another car. And then this fight going into the chicane, coming out of Parabolica before they went into the chicane, and it all went wrong. So that was Stroll and Jensen, wasn't it, running wide, which bunched them all up and then kind of triggered off the incident when they hit the brakes down at the chicane at the start of the next lap about 15 seconds later. So safety car out, not for the first time this weekend, and they fueled it up plenty. And we've got in the points Rosenqvist, Dennis, Leclerc, Giovinazzi, Mazzano, Menezes, Russell, Ferrucci, Stroll, and Gunther, Max Gunther, into the points in 10th place. Fellow German Mark Pommer is 11th. Pietro Fittipaldi has had 2-point scoring finishes despite driving with a broken hand, which he broke at Poe in qualifying 2 weeks ago. He's there in 12th. Was on the rookie podium, his first rookie podium yesterday, and his granddad Emerson Fittipaldi, the 72, 74 Formula 1 world champion and Champ Car champion, Indy 500 winner, was there to present the trophies, as he will be today, for both the overall and the rookie podium. So Pietro Fittipaldi 12th, Raul Hyman 13th, Tatiana Calderon 14th. Getting a bit closer to the points now is Tatiana. Certainly the best race for her so far this year. Callum Ilott has struggled a little bit this weekend, but he is fresh out of karts. And it is a big ask to come somewhere like Monza, hop in an F3 car and be competitive straight away. Max Verstappen was able to do anything like that last year, but more and more it's becoming apparent that Max was a bit of a one-off. We have in 16th place Hongwei Cao, the British Formula 3 champion. Alessio Lorandi, also fresh out of karts. Also had a number of moments this weekend. He's there in 17th. He's coming from the back because he's suffering a 10-place grid penalty with what's his second engine change of the week, because he had a broken engine on Tuesday. Not his own fault. He then had a couple of spins, overheated the engine with debris, which team boss Fritz van Amersfoort said was perhaps more the driver having a responsibility there. So double engine change, so 10-place grid penalty for this one. It'll carry through to the first race of the weekend at Spa. But he's fought back well a couple of times. He hasn't got any points yet. He got close to getting in the points yesterday, did Lorendic, and he's made good progress, and he's up to 17th place now from 25th on the grid. Sorry, 18th from 25th on the grid. Monza Janos and Matt Solomon rounding out the top 20. Matt Solomon, whose claim to fame is that he raced in GTs in Asia a couple of years ago, and his teammate was the double Formula 1 world champion Mika Häkkinen, and they were very successful in a Mercedes in a couple of races together. So the Hong Kong race driver still seeking out his first points of the season. He's been unlucky to be pushed down the grid for races 2 and 3 because he actually qualified 8th fastest, but something came loose in the car. Its flexibility in the car itself was too great to pass scrutineering. There was no advantage to be gained really, but rules are rules, and luckily Solomon put to the back of the field for both races, or near the back of the field. Arjun Mining 21st, Nabil Jeffrey 22nd, Sergio Setikamara's 23rd. A few places in the race. So, safety car, race under investigation, it says on the screen. Right. There was talk that if they had too many more incidents in the races, they'd just leave the safety car out and try to teach these young drivers a lesson. I hope that's not going to be the case. So it will be very interesting for you or I watching the race if that does happen. But you'd have thought that the incident might have been cleared by now. Anyway, safety car out. Felix Rosenqvist won't care too much because he leads the race. We're hoping that we'll get the full points this time around though. So Rosenqvist keeping the heat in the tyres. Safety car lights are still on, and we are coming up to half distance in terms of the number of laps complete. Whether we'll get the 19 laps again is questionable because there's a time limit of 35 minutes. We've only got 13 minutes and 9 seconds left on the clock, and there's no sign of it getting back up to full speed. So news has just come through that the race is going to be stopped in 3 laps time, I think I've heard correctly, and without a restart. So it seems that the officials have now had enough of all these incidents that are going on, and they're going to try and, I guess, get to the 75% distance. They call this a result. There is also an issue here that things are running behind in the local timetable. It's a packed timetable. They've been racing up till sort of 7 o'clock at night all days so far, and we're already running behind schedule in terms of the timetable for the day here at Monza. But I think this is perhaps more a case of the officials, despite all these warnings and all this debate and all these penalties, they've had enough of all these crashes that have been going on. And the main concern is, of course, for safety. We had some big scares yesterday. So you can see their Premier Power team, they are on the radio, the officials are on the radio to them, they're on the radio to the drivers, and there is no sign that that safety car is going to disappear and get underway again. So as I say, it says on the screen, safety car, race under investigation, which I've never seen before. And there's also come through on the headset to me that they're going to do another 3 laps, including the one they're on behind the safety car. Then they're going to stop it, red flag it, and there you go, red flags. So whether that will be that, or whether they'll all get another talking to and get going again, remains to be seen. But red flag for now. 9 laps haven't been complete. Bit of confusion down there, as you can see. Premier Power team kind of half-heartedly clapping there to say, well, we're at a race if it stops like this. We're first and second again, but we're only going to get half points. Is that definitely the end? What's going on? So a little bit of confusion down there, and they are no doubt already a little bit tired and dazed and confused after staying up, a lot of them, till 6 o'clock this morning, so working through the night to repair Lance Stroll's car. The reward being that he is in the points at the moment. Right, there's confirmation. Race is going to be stopped, and it's not going to be restarted. So that's a real shame, a real anticlimax for us all, particularly for the front runners, you have to say, because they're the ones that have not been involved in any of these incidents. The incidents have all been midfield and further down. The guys at the front, Rosenqvist, Dennis Leclerc, have been driving absolutely fine, and you know they're going to be penalised, and they're not going to get their race now. They're not going to get full whack of points. and that again will be more frustrating to the Prema Power Team duo of Felix Rosenqvist and Jake Dennis. So under very unusual circumstances, the race finishes with Felix Rosenqvist as our race winner. Jake Dennis is going to be second. Third place to Charles Leclerc, his first podium of the weekend. Fourth place to the championship leader Antonio Giovinazzi, so he is caught by the others in the championship, but he still will hold the championship lead because of this half points rule. And then fourth place, Brandon Mazzano. Sorry, fifth place, Brandon Mazzano. Sixth place goes to Gustavo Meneses, so it's turned into a good weekend for him, fifth and sixth. Although, again, only half points for both of those results will be a frustration. Seventh place to George Russell in the points again, second in the rookie standings. Eighth place to Santino Ferrucci. Ninth place to Lance Stroll after his huge moment yesterday, and at least some points for the team and for the driver at the end of it all. Could have been a very different weekend for Lance Stroll. He's had good pace here this weekend. As he said to me this morning, it's just not been my weekend. And the results are now cleared from the screens. Charles Leclerc will be the winner in terms of the rookie standings. Whether they'll do the podium or not, the race to be seen. I guess they still will. Hope they still will. It'll be a slightly odd atmosphere down there on the podium, I would have thought. Rosenqvist will be pleased, Dennis will be pleased, but Jake never really, and in the race yesterday, never really had a chance to attack Felix Rosenqvist. He'll be pleased he made that move on Charles Leclerc now to get up into second place and to do that early on in the race. So at least that's something. But a good weekend for Jake. As he said, he needed it after the massive disappointment of missing out on a hat-trick of victories at Pau. The car failing him with just 5 minutes of the race remaining when he led. He led the whole weekend, and the third race of the weekend was the one with the title of Pau GP winner, this historic, famous race in Formula 3, and he came so close to it. But in absolute fairness to Jake Dennis, he has been very positive this weekend. He's not letting it get to him, and he's bounced back with a trio of podium finishes. So you have to say, it is now Formula 3. I said it at the start of the weekend. I'm even more confident about it now. It is becoming a four-horse race, this. There are one or two others on the phrase. We've had good performances from Max Gunther. We've had some good performances this weekend from Mikkel Jensen. But it's looking like a four-horse race at this stage, at 1/3 distance of the championship between that man, Felix Rosenqvist, 3 wins this weekend. That man, Jake Dennis, a double race winner. And that now means 5 podiums out of the last 6 races for him. And also, of course, Charles Leclerc, who's the top rookie, second in the point standings. And the other one we cannot rule out, of course, although he's had a bad weekend, is Antonio Giovinazzi, the points leader. Not the weekend he wanted in his home country, with lots of local family and friends here. So Giovinazzi will be disappointed, but I suppose chances are you're all going to have a bad weekend at some point, where there are so many races. So there, Jake Dennis, backed by the Racing Steps Foundation, makes his way towards, hopefully, the podium. Charles Leclerc just getting his helmet off. So he has made up a bit more ground, made up a little bit of ground on Rosenqvist. We're going to get some highlights of the race as such they were. Well, it began really well, and there was some good overtaking, there were some good moves. It's just a pity that it was cut short, because I see a car stalling at the back of the field there. It was shaping up to be a really good battle. Well, there was the first incident, first corner. That was Ryan Tveta just missing his braking point. Well, maybe missing his braking point, maybe the car had braked earlier than he expected. Either way, they came together, and it's always difficult when you're in the middle of the pack there to know, you can't brake too early because somebody comes flying past you or drives into the back of you. You can't brake too late because you did the same to somebody else. It's a really tricky situation to be in. Tveta came off worse. He went in the back of the Westech car of Fabian Schiller, which then suffered damage and had to report to the pits. Brandon Mazzano and Gustavo Meneses, they saw having a good battle. Santino Ferrucci made a mistake early on, dropped a few places, then tried to fight his way back up the order, including that attempted move on his teammate. This was the shuffle up at the chicane, the straw that broke the camel's back, that was, as 4 cars tried to squeeze into the chicane. Mikkel Jensen came off worst, and it wasn't that big a moment, that big a crash, but the officials threatened to either run the race behind the safety car or red flag it if the behaviour of the drivers continued, and they gave them one more chance, didn't they, because we had the one safety car and they restarted, and then 2 laps later another incident, and they said right, that's it now, we're going to teach you a lesson, you can't drive like this, we are stopping the race. That's what happened. So, as I say, real disappointment, a real shame for those at the front, those other drivers that were nothing to do with any of those incidents. But you can understand really why the officials have taken this stance. So, Felix Rosenqvist with 3 wins here this weekend to add to the victories that he got at Silverstone, the very first race of the season. He was a winner at Hockenheim. And bad weekend at Poe aside, although he did recover, as I said, he did get a couple of top 6 finishes. Yeah. Bad weekend aside, he's looked in great form, Felix Rosenqvist, and he's got himself right back in the championship fight. There's a good look behind the scenes at the drivers as they get ready for the podium. There's George Russell, who's going to be on the rookie podium once again. A little bit of a debrief, because they don't know what goes on behind them, so it's only when they see the strewn masses of debris and broken cars and then look at the replays later on that they get the whole story of the race. They're just getting on with their own business. So might have to catch a slightly earlier flight home. Just about. George Russell, of course, was involved in that last incident, saying they were going 2 abreast through the last corner, mentioning about Stroll, mentioning about Ferrucci, mentioning about the fact they're all trying to squeeze through the same bit of track. Russell did, I think, the right thing in taking evasive action and going over the curves, because he was able to stay out of contact with the others, and of course he's the one that got through. He's got himself points and a rookie podium. So a very frustrating end to the race for all involved. These 2 teammates, good friends, teammates for the first time this season, both having moved to Prema Power Team, and looking very happy with life after a solid weekend. We go next to Spa-Francorchamps, and still lots of racing ahead. So here we're going to get our podium, our first podium of the day, and it is going to be for the top 3 overall. So up onto the top step of the podium, our triple winner here at Monza, Felix Rosenqvist from Sweden. Controlled stuff all weekend long. He made it happen really with great performances in qualifying. Jake Dennis bouncing back really well from the disappointment at Poe to take 3 podiums. 2nd place again for him, a 3rd, a 2nd and a 2nd in the 3 races here. And onto the podium for the first time this weekend is Charles Leclerc, 3rd place for him. So not satisfactory by his standards, but at least a better end to the weekend than the way it ended yesterday afternoon. And our winning team, of course, our Prema Power Team, powered by Mercedes. And we'll now get our national anthem for our race winner.